I'm Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Today on Carrie's Connoisseurs, I have Winnie Bowman. She's a doctor. She's a mum. She's a wife. She's a friend. She props up the wine industry in South Africa and, in fact, in the rest of the world to a large extent. She's formidable. She's a wonderful friend. Winnie, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Carrie, and Happy New Year. We haven't spoken earlier.
I know. Happy New Year to you. What did you do for New Year? Were you in the country or where were you?
I was here, Carrie, and I was asleep by 10 o'clock. I heard not a single firework or pop of a cork at 12 o'clock.
Well, you see, it is time for me to come down to Cape Town and get hold of you and that husband of yours and re-inject some Botox into your bottoms because you're too young to be in bed at 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve. So do you know what happened to me? I actually jumped in my car and drove down to my family in Natal. They know, as you know, they live in the Midlands of Natal. And it was just my brother and sister and myself, and we thought, and my brother-in-law, and we thought maybe also 10 o'clock bed, early to bed, you know, cottage pie, something left over. But unbeknown to me, they had organized on the estate that they live on, they had found a fantastic guy who you would love. He's like a retired aeronautical engineer, something hugely cerebral, like you, Winnie. And in his ODAC, he's decided to play the keyboards and make music. And he had a bloke who'd been for the last 10 years or something in Australia who was playing the guitar at one of the houses on the estate where my sister on this eco estate. And for the first time in about 10 years, I actually partied and danced and drank until about 1:30 in the morning. So I'm just being big balls at the moment because I didn't go to bed at 10 o'clock.
I'm coming with you next year.
It was great fun. Anyway, Happy New Year, my darling. What's in store for Winnie Bowman this year? What are you up to?
Well, I'm already planning all my trips. I'm judging in London and in Europe as I normally do from about March onwards. So I'm looking forward to that because, of course, everything's back to normal now with full rooms of judges and regular judge functions and so on. And, of course, with South African wine doing so well internationally. I mean, I was actually amazed when I read through all the people's lists of best wines for 2022. Most of them had one or two or even three South African wines on that list. So
very heartening.
That to me is always wonderful to see that we are actually making an impact and that people are seeing our wines out there and they are much more available. So that to me is lovely. And of course, I also get to judge in some of the competition South African wines, and it's lovely to judge with international judges where they can also give their opinion about South Africa. And for some of them, it's the first exposure to it, and they just love it.
Wins, don't you love when you're judging with international judges, the reaction to the first sip of Pinotage?
Well, you know, you're mentioning Pinotage, and I know that we're going to be speaking about the Italian winemakers later. But while I was in London last year, I did a Pinotage top 10 and Pinotage top 5 blends, a tasting at High Timber at Naline's restaurant. And first of all, she was overrun by people who wanted to attend because for them it's something new, something different. And of course, those that were a little bit hesitant, Naline bullied them into coming to the tasting.
Yes, and you don't fight with Naline.
No, you don't fight with Naline. And at the end of the tasting, every single person came to me and said, please, can we do this every year? Because for some of them, it was a reintroduction to Pinotage after not being able to travel for a few years.
Yes.
And for those who'd never tasted it before, were astounded at the quality. And of course, I mean, we know how good it is, and the Pinotage Association does such wonderful work in order to make it internationally sort of exciting
Recognizable.
for
Yeah.
new and recognizable, and for people to try something different.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing, and then with the visiting guys that we're getting next week, they specifically asked to do on their day trips only pinotage,
Oh, really?
and that
Well,
coming from
having
the
brought
yeah
up the subject, let's
yeah
tell everybody why. That's actually why you and I caught up this morning. Um, there's an organization which you may or may not have heard about called Gambero Rosso. And I don't really know, Winnie, how you're involved in this, but as I said, you are the queen of wine in the whole world. So they probably thought, we need to do something Italian in South Africa. Let's get hold of Winnie Bowman. So talk to us about Gambero Rosso.
well yeah. So first of all, I actually, when I started working with them, didn't even realize how big an organization they are. They're one of the biggest food and wine organizations in the world, and they have several things such as training venues in mostly in Italy, in Rome, but also in different other areas of Italy, where they train foodies, chefs, people who like wine. And what's very special about them is that they don't actually pitch it at one specific group. They cater for amateurs, they cater for people who are just enthusiastic about the
Yeah.
subject, and then, of course,
And I see that
professionals.
they've got a platform on Sky where
Okay, and
they've produced a whole lot of TV
This is the
programs.
so this is the Italian Sky, Italian branch of Sky, and they do loads and loads of food and wine programs on Sky. They've got something like 22 million viewers every year of these
Wow.
channels. Then they also do awards for restaurants, and this is broken up into fine dining, pizzerias, um, all different kinds of wine bars, etc. And they all get different accolades, so to speak, and little stickers for their menus. And then the big thing that they do is the Vinnie d'Italia, which is the book. And for South Africans, it's very much like our Platter wine
Platter,
book.
yeah, that's what I assumed. So it's
Yeah,
almost
where
like
they
an Italian Bureau of Standards for food and wine, isn't it? I mean, they give stickers out and things, and if you've got a
correct.
Gambero Rosso sticker, then everybody
So
says, yes, that could be good.
correct. And in fact, they've moved that worldwide because they also award restaurants in other countries, which is
Oh,
part
really?
of the reason that they're coming here to South Africa, is to award the South African Italian restaurants.
Do they only award Italian restaurants or
Yeah,
any restaurant
yeah.
in the country?
In South Africa, I think they were the last time, which was in 2016, because that was the first time they actually came to visit us.
Yes.
And just to go back to the wine side of it, is they they have this book where they evaluate over 45,000 wines a year,
Yeah.
and then they
That's
award what they
amazing.
call the Trebaceri, which is 3 glasses for the best wine. So that would be like our 5-star wine.
Yeah.
And then they go on road shows all over the world. They visit 30 big cities: Sao Paulo, Hong Kong, London, Paris, New York, Stockholm, and they go Australia, everywhere, and they do a road show with some of these award winners.
So is this the first time that they've come to South Africa?
Well, no, it'll be the second time, because in 2016 there were two young chaps, one from Nigeria and one from Ghana, Mark and Ozzy, who settled in the UK, and they suddenly decided they would quite like to take Prosecco back to their country, Zambia and Ghana.
Yeah.
And they tasted a whole bunch of Proseccos, and their favorite one was one from the Valdiviana Day region, and they loved it. And then that particular year, that wine was awarded the Trebiceri for Prosecco.
Oh,
So they
wow.
thought, oh,
Okay.
we've got quite the palate. And they thought it would be a good idea to actually take Prosecco to Africa. And they did
Clever.
a little bit of research on Gambaro Rosso and then saw that they were going all over the world, but not Africa. So they jumped on a plane and went to see Tina Erickson, who's coming out here now as well this time, to pitch to her that they should be doing something in Africa. And they spoke to her for 5 minutes, and she was sold. And
Fantastic.
we had the first roadshow in South Africa in Cape Town in 2016. And it was an enormous success because we also involved the Italian consulate and
Yeah.
Italian expats. And it was just a lovely wine tasting with master classes, the Italian
Yes.
community involved, Italian food, and it was fabulous. And they were committed to come back again, but of course then COVID happened.
Yeah. So ordinarily, does this show take place every year in every country in the world, or do they stagger it?
They stagger it a little bit because South Africa, because it's one of their newest places that they're visiting, they want to do it every 2 years.
Okay.
And I'm in fact planning to discuss Joburg with them as well because I think Joburg is such a wonderful mecca for fine wine. And do you know that
Well,
there's
everybody's
been
so
an
rude about
uptick?
Johannesburg, Wins. Everyone's very rude about Johannesburg, but in its own way, Johannesburg still, and even now, with much of this emigration to the Cape, a lot of people commute. And they
Yeah,
work and make money in Johannesburg, and then they go to Cape Town and Durban to go and relax and have fun.
and
So
have a
I
holiday.
feel that South Africa is producing and supporting a good 70% of the economy that's driven through this country. I mean, not South Africa, Gauteng is supporting 70 odd percent of it in taxes and income and economy and what driving the economy. And all it ever gets is lambasted from left to right and in the middle too. So I do think that it would be very, very nice for the citizens of Gauteng who loyally soldier on and keep this economy pumping. I think they need
And
to be
sell most of the
treated.
wine.
Absolutely. And the one funny thing is, I don't think there's a place for us to try and emulate a wine route in Johannesburg, which is what everybody has tried to do. Everybody said, "Oh, come on, we've got to try and make a chaff Stellenbosch route." And Midrand is bloody ugly. Springs, the East Rand, God knows we don't want to go there. There's maybe 3 or 4 pretty places in Johannesburg where there's loads of trees and there's, maybe the odd hill, Northcliffe Hill or Westcliffe Ridge or something. There's a couple of little pretty little places. On balance, we are what they call in the classics fugly. So we just need to accept that we're fugly and we're not going to make a pretty wine route. Do you know what I mean? But a thing like this Italian food and wine show could really, really pique the interest of people who do have money to spend. We hope we've still got
Absolutely.
some money to spend. And it's something fun to go to. We don't have a lot to keep us entertained in Johannesburg. Not a lot at all. And especially, is it something we could do in the dark, do you think?
Well, yes. I mean, but
Because
just
we don't have any electricity.
well, neither have we. We've just ours has just come on a few minutes ago. But
Ours
um,
too.
but Carrie, last year I did a brandy tasting in Soweto. You were actually not there.
I know I
In
couldn't be
fact,
there. I was away
no,
somewhere.
no, no. You were not. You were not in Johannesburg.
Yeah, so,
Um,
so I think I was
and we
away.
did. Yeah, we did one in Soweto with Shabeen owners and some of the lovely girls that do the walkabout tours in the townships, and it was fabulous. And they all also said we need more of this because,
Yeah,
as you say, people don't want to come to Johannesburg. They think Cape Town is everything,
yeah.
and so
And you know what? Hey, we've
you know.
got David Higgs. We've got
eh,
David Higgs in the pantry where people queue for 2 hours for a David Higgs donut. And that's
Oh
about as
my word!
exciting as it's going to get. Hey?
So this year, the Gambaro Rosso Roadshow to Cape Town is on the 26th of January,
Yes, tell us, where
and
is
we're
it going to
having it.
be?
It's going to be at the Lookout at the waterfront, which of course is a spectacular venue because you just see the sea and the boats, and you can stand outside, sip your wine. And we're going to have a whole bunch of international winemakers, mainly the ones from the award-winning wines, will be out here in Cape Town. And
Okay.
while they're here, they're also doing three master classes, and that'll be divided into Northern Italy, Central Italy, and Southern Italian wines, which will give
Yeah.
consumers and trade. And of course, we've invited quite a lot of sommeliers and front of house staff and restaurants, so
Yes.
that to give them a good idea of what is available out there. And the wines are
When's
ready to be poured.
who's paying for all of this? Because it's a
The
lot of
Gambaro
money to put
Rosso.
an expo like
It's
that.
a lot of money. The Gambaro Rosso is paying. I think the winemakers are coming on their own steam because, of course, for them, they also really want to see South Africa, and they
Yeah,
want to,
of
and it's
course.
an opportunity for them to see South Africa. And interestingly enough, last time they flew in and they did the program that I arranged for them, and they flew out. And this year, some of them are coming a week earlier, staying a week later, taking
Yes.
in a safari, that kind of thing,
Well,
which is
Winnie
so
Bowman, why
lovely.
don't you bring some of them to Johannesburg and we'll entertain them Johannesburg style, and you and I will
Well,
entertain them. And we'll see about
you
bringing
bet.
them back to Johannesburg when they come in 2 years' time.
We are having serious meetings with the management when they are here, because
Good.
they love Cape Town. In fact, the senior people from Gamma Rosso have already said they're staying on an extra week themselves.
I'm sure they love Cape
So
Town. Cape
so
Town's
that's
very
encouraging.
beautiful. This expo that you're putting together, it's a series of stalls or stands, or is it made up kitchens, or is it, have we got some South African wine farms that are standing there with maybe a Nebbiolo or a Sangiovese? No,
No, no, no.
nothing.
There'll be no South African wine. It'll all be Italian wine. And interestingly enough, Carrie, Italian wine sales have gone up by about 85% over the last few years.
Winnie, for as long as you and I have been around, and it's long, look at our hair. Italy has been one of the biggest producers of wine in the world, and
I-
good
the-
entry level wine. So we all dream about that red check tablecloth, don't we? And that pavement, and your
Yeah,
mate or your lover, and a table and chairs, and a carafe, and a pizza, and a sunny day in
absolutely.
Tuscany. That's what we dream
And a
of. It's
smile on your face.
gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and that's what Italian wine is to me. I absolutely love it. We don't even know what's in that carafe. There's nothing pretentious about it. Oh, listen, we can swish off to the Bulgaris if we want to, or the Ferragamas. We can go to any of them and taste the most off the charts, or Frescobaldi's. There's some serious wine royalty in Italy. But on balance, I think that Italy has given the world a wonderful, wonderful, picture perfect painting of what wine brings to your life. It's French joie de vivre.
Unpretentious.
What's joie de vivre in Italian? I don't know.
That I don't
You,
know.
Wendy, you see, I phone you because you are the clever one out of the two of us.
I'll have to find out today and let you know.
And tell us. But I do think that that's lovely, and I think that the more we introduce those kind of cultivars, because I think that our climate lends itself to planting a lot more Italian grape varieties, and we could be making the most delicious Italian grape varietals in South Africa.
We do already with quite a few, and the thing is that when we researched the Italian varieties that are planted in South Africa and wines that are made, we were quite
Yeah.
astounded at the number of different wines,
Oh,
and
really?
people love them. And I often see that people taste the South African bottle next to an Italian example
Oh,
to see
really?
the difference.
To
And of course,
compare.
then we see the South African terroir and the South African sun coming through in our wine, and it's something different, the Italian. But just to go back to your point about what the Italians have brought to us, I mean, for me, it's always a smile on your face wines.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've watched Stanley Tucci's programs on
Stop it. He was my favorite
uh,
thing last year. Didn't you love him?
and I was finding myself sitting closer and closer and closer to the TV because I wanted to lick the screen and drink that wine.
I know.
So,
He was
and
amazing.
that has brought also Italy much more into our homes worldwide. And that's why I think
What?
the Gambero Rossa does a really good job in
Yeah.
in promoting Italian wine.
I think it's extraordinary that they've managed to bring a roadshow of these proportions, 10,000 kilometers across Africa to South Africa, to come and introduce themselves. And I think they need to be supported. It's on the 23rd or 26th.
26th of January.
26th of
26th,
January.
Thursday the 26th of
And
January.
Gudrun, and it's just the one day wins.
Yep.
Just the one
Yep.
day that it's on.
Just the
Gudrun
one
did
day.
send me an invitation, but I'm going to be in, no, I'm not going to be in the bush. I'm going to Kenya. So I'm not going to be there. But I'm going to come and spend some time with you
Well, you
afterwards.
should because, and we can do because they're bringing apart from the masterclass wines which are separate.
Yeah.
They are bringing 1,000 bottles of wine to Cape Town.
That is amazing. It's extraordinary.
So
Well, we're going to raise
it's
our
going to be
glasses to
wonderful.
them. I think it's fun. How much does it cost? Can anybody just go and buy a ticket at CompuTicket,
It's
or where do you
free.
get?
It's free. It's
What are you
free,
telling me?
and
Nothing in
people
life is free.
you just have to register with Gudrun.
Okay. We'll put
We
Gudrun's
are
name and number up on the... Callum, can we put Gudrun's name and number somewhere on this podcast?
email.
Okay, so Winnie and I have got a gorgeous boy called Callum. And he does all of this stuff for us. Hey, Wince, we've got this gorgeous young boy. He's got
Absolutely.
tattoos and a lovely body. And he does all this stuff for us for these podcasts. So anybody
More
who's
than we
watching...
ask for.
Much more than we... In your dreams, Winnie Bowman. So we're going to ask Cal to put these things up on wherever it happens. I don't know. He makes everything happen. And anybody who would like to go and join in this unbelievable festive fair of food and wine, all Italian, it's all going to be there for you to have a look and see. And you're clearly
Well,
going to be there, Winnie.
I'm going to be there the whole day, but also just remember that visitors will be interacting with the winemakers from that specific producer. So it's something that we don't often get.
Special.
And it's
Very special.
very special, and I'm, for one, very excited about it. In fact, I hope very few people turn up so I can have some of the wines for afterwards when you come and visit me, Carrie.
I'm so cross. So take as many as you can home, Wins. I'll come and stay with you and we'll just stay in our jammies all weekend and taste Italian wine. Should we do that?
Yeah,
Winnie, as
we
ever,
must do
you've
that.
brought something exciting, innovative, necessary, gorgeous and fun to South Africa. You are really just such an addition, an unbelievable additive to the South African wine industry. Thank you, my darling.
Thanks, Carrie.
Have a wonderful weekend. We'll put all your stuff. We'll put Winnie's vital statistics up on wherever they have to
Some, no, only some.
be. The important ones, Winnie B. We'll put those up.
Important ones.
Have a lovely time, and I will speak to you just after they've gone back because I've got loads of things for us to talk about.
Yes, lovely.
This
Thanks,
may be
Carrie.
one of them. Thanks, Wins.
And
thank you very much.
Always lovely to
Cheers.
talk to you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.